Alright, before I embark on this newest review and analysis for Star Wars' The Acolyte, I want to address some questions that I've recently been bombarded with. Number 1, why are you reviewing this if you hate it so much? Number 2, why are you tearing into these creators when you are one yourself? Number 3, nothing good comes from you doing this, so why are you wasting your time? 4, why are you making a fool of yourself? And 5, how can you be such an idiot? Star Wars is awesome! Well, all good questions, so allow me to address them. I do these reviews and analyses, because good storytelling matters. If you, dear viewer, like The Acolyte, that's totally fine by me. It really is. Go on ahead. You might then enjoy maybe watching a video that extols the virtues of the show rather than watching this one, which is going to be way more critical. And if you can't find such videos, then make one yourself. It will do a lot of good to add to the effective dialogue between differing perspectives here on the internet. But coming back to it, good storytelling matters. And objectively speaking, The Acolyte is riddled with problems. Now, believe it or not, that's absolutely okay. Everyone's stories are in a similar state before they are thoroughly edited and reviewed. The real problem is that a badly executed story, one that has even squandered some great potential like The Acolyte, is being passed off as a masterpiece. If we allow Hollywood to promote lazy, poor writing without any sort of pushback, it becomes the norm. Traditional publishers will then take note of this because the billion-dollar film industry motivates and in many ways dictates what publishers pursue, because adaptations of the books that they publish brings in tons of money and worldwide recognition and fame. If bad writing is rewarded, then bad writing is what we allow the entire entertainment industry to become inundated with. And when all we get are bad stories, the quicker it causes negative communication, fandom collapse, business misadventures, and culture to unravel into uneducated, pathetic, violent tribalism. If you don't believe me, do a deep dive into the cultural conflicts of Greece and Rome. History may not repeat itself, but it does provide patterns. But on a more personal level, what we here at Camille's Harem can immediately affect by doing these videos is that we want all storytellers to become better writers and creatives. Yes, that even includes Leslie Headland and her people if they're willing to listen. We want everyone to make their stories the best that they can be, because their stories need them to be what they can potentially become, the best that they can be. And writers need their stories. And no matter what, the world needs all of these stories. I truly do believe that. And if that makes me a fool, then I'll gladly be the court jester of the kings of entertainment. And if you disagree with the sentiment here, then I'm not sure what else I can say other than let's get on with this review and analysis. Hi there everyone, Lars here, once again from Camille's Harem, not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends, and believe it or not, I do believe that this episode is the strongest episode in The Acolyte thus far, at least on a thematic level. However, what is really great about this episode, or what could be potentially really great, has been robbed, plundered, and destroyed, pillaged and burned, broken over one's knee time and time again by all of the mistakes that have come before. And I will explain that now. This episode is largely claustrophobic, taking place for the majority of the runtime within Master Soul's ship and on Smilo Ren's personal base, both of which are rather small, cramped, and then demand a lot of interpersonal moments and a lot of introspection, which is actually really good. After a big climactic fight sequence, you want to kind of tone it down. You want to slow things out. You want characters to come to terms with what they've just experienced, process it, and learn how to move on. And we're getting that here in this episode. And we get to see Osha and May finally confronting the demons of their past and exploring the pros and cons of the light and dark sides of the Force. This is, honestly, really good. However, there are a lot of problems mixed in with this that take away from what could be some really great thematic moments, which left me wishing more. I was getting angry because I was thinking, wow, this could be really good. The only problem is, I don't care about either of these characters. Osha, who has survived because the plot has demanded it, should not really be here. And we've gotten so little of her character up until this point that she's finally getting actual character development in the 6th episode. The 6th episode of an 8-episode series. This means that we have passed through roughly 3/4 of the series before we get to learn anything of any real consequence for this character and have any sort of chance to actually identify with her. As a result, I really don't care about her. I care more about Smilo Ren and Master Soul at this point, both of whose characters were made to look really silly by the horrible action of the previous episode, which then clashes with any good moment that we could have with them here. Furthermore, Mai continues to be consistent in her inconsistency when she's there to sabotage the Jedi. She's there to kill Master Soul, but then she doesn't. Then she works along well with him. And what is she even doing poking around this ship? There's so much wasted time as well. There's a lot of different shots and sequences that are meant to draw out the tension, get us thinking. The problem is that they are focused on, again, 2 characters that we don't really care much about. Osha, because we hardly know anything about her. She's a girl who's been protected by the plot for plot reasons and not for anything that she herself has done. There's a lot of fun that you can have with a character who's incompetent, who learns to become incompetent throughout the story, or someone who doesn't believe in themselves and gets to learn along the way through their trials and errors that they actually are very competent and can become the hero or heroine that the story needs them to be. Osha is undergoing none of that. Therefore, she's just a bland protagonist through whom we are experiencing the plot. And the plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense because of how contradictory the world building and dialogue and characters are, and the fact that we basically abandoned the murder mystery element at the very beginning of the story, and the key to that is being held by Master Soul, and he continues to dangle in front of us like rattling keys. This is a Chekhov's gun moment where the secret should have been revealed to us already, or at least an element of the secret, maybe something to tantalize us with. Maybe we think that we actually know what happened, but no, wait, Master Soul still has the one bit of evidence that could change all of this around. We need those moments to keep us engaged and interested. Little bits of crumbs along the trail to guide us to the wonderful candy house. No, we're not getting any of that. So as the plot and the characters are unraveling, and it's just so much wasted time that could have actually been used again to give Osha actually better development in this episode, give Mai better development in this episode, give Smilo Ren better development in this episode. We could have had some really, really great stuff, but no, time got wasted. And so we get only these little snippets of great thematic discussions where especially Smilo Ren is challenging everything that Osha knows. I actually really like these scenes, but we get so little of it, and then we cut to somewhere else right as we're about to get to something good. It cuts. The pacing is all over the place. It makes no sense. So it continues to unravel again and again. Right as I'm getting invested in a scene and in a character, we cut to the next thing. This is dumb, and I guarantee that this is the writers trying to mimic what George R.R. Martin does within his own books, because this is a hallmark of his writing. He builds up a scene, he builds up a moment, he builds up a character, and right before something cool happens, he cuts and he goes to another character, and then when you return to that character that you were really excited for, that scene and that moment has already passed, and you're getting to experience the fallout. And let me just say, that is incredibly frustrating as a reader, and that's also incredibly frustrating for me to try to do as a creative, because I want to show these amazing scenes. I've been building up to it. Why would I want to skip over something so cool, something so engaging, something that's meant to be the payoff for all of my hard work and for all of your investment in my story? If I take away those moments, if I don't provide the explanation, if I don't provide the coolness, if I don't let you have this chance to revel in a really awesome scene, then what was the point? Why go through all of that effort when you're not going to have the chance to enjoy it at all? And so, honestly, by the end of the episode, we're just getting teased. We're getting teased with Osha putting on Smilo Ren's helmet. Ooh, is she about to go to the dark side? Maybe. I really don't care. The reason why I don't care is because I barely know her character, and because whatever the plot wills to happen, will happen, and not because Osha herself is doing anything, or even Smilo Ren, but because the writers want it to happen. These characters have no autonomy whatsoever. And oh, Master Soul is going to tell us what actually happened back in episode 3? Yeah, I will believe it when I see it, because again, this has been dangled in front of us like a carrot, like jangling keys, already for multiple episodes with no other hint as to what might happen, and I'm just tired of being dragged along on this story that isn't giving me anything of real substance, that isn't giving me any good payoff to my investment, and that continues to engage in contradictory world building and characters and dialogue, and it's just such a mess. Now, allow me to actually push back on one scene that I know a lot of people are like, oh, how dare you make Smilo Ren get naked? This is a Star Wars show, for crying out loud. Well, let me just say right off the bat that the whole argument about whether or not this is a story for kids or whether this is a story made for adults, this show very clearly made it a part of its advertising from the beginning that this was meant to be darker and more mature. As a result, I expected us to go in this kind of direction. This is not a show that was meant for children. So people, stop clutching your pearls, get off your soapboxes, get over it. This is a darker story. It's meant to be more mature. We're meant to go into some weird places. And when I look at the scene right here, it actually makes sense with all of the bizarre dialogue and world building that we've been given thus far. Is it conducive with Star Wars as we know it? Absolutely not. But within the story, it actually makes sense. Mai, who's a character that's already been established, who is willing to murder her own sister, or at least have the other Jedi do it for her, she has been shanghaied. She's now on this crazy planet that she doesn't understand with this man who is clearly dangerous, so she's going to get rid of him. She takes a little kunai knife, and then later on she takes his lightsaber, but because of her training as a Jedi, you can't attack someone who's unarmed! Never mind that the Force makes you a living weapon if you're going to wield it incorrectly. That all aside, according to her teachings, she cannot harm Smilo Ren while he is getting himself bathed, because that goes against the Jedi Code as far as she understands it. So she's ready for a fight. Should he attack her, then she's going to attack him, and she will finally be justified in killing him and getting revenge. But because he doesn't, he throws her off balance. And him being in that very vulnerable position turns the tables on her entirely and shows that he is in complete control. He has the high ground in terms of morality, philosophy, and of true power. That is what the scene is honestly there to communicate. Now, what I will say is that the way that this scene was executed takes away from that powerful message. Instead, what we get is sexy fun times with Smilo Ren. Oh, Osha wants to get a better look. She's intrigued. She's creeping towards him. Look at those rippling pectorals, those wonderfully toned muscles. Oh, what else does he have besides his laser sword down there? That's honestly what this scene is giving us at its surface level. And it's so loud and in your face, even though it's a very quiet scene, it's so very obvious that they wanted to take the moment where Kylo Ren, where Ben Solo is shirtless and Rey sees him and begins to swoon, that the writers here wanted to take that moment and ratchet it up to 11 and start delivering on what all of the fanboys and fangirls really wanted from the sequel trilogy. Ha ha! The problem is that, once again, that's so loud and overdone in this scene that it takes away from what could have been a very powerful moment. If rather than focusing on the sexiness of Smilo Ren getting undressed, what if instead she comes around and she sees that, oh, He's already bathing, and there's all of his clothes, and there's his lightsaber. Obviously, he's undressed. Obviously, he's vulnerable, and now she can attack him. And then we see him coming up out of the water completely unfazed and then ready to engage her in a matter of philosophy. That would have been way more powerful. Yes, they wanted to show off his scars. You could have showed off those scars when he comes up out of the water and terrifies her with how confident he is and with how much in control he is of the situation. That would have been way more powerful and would have left you with this mystery of, ooh, what's really going on here, rather than lingering on the sexiness. Now then, I'm just going to say this, I'm no prude. I'm totally fine if you're going to have sexiness within a scene. The problem is that there's obviously a double standard going on here, that you would have a scene like this and that these people would also get angry with Slave Leia. And granted, people can get upset with that if they wish, but if you get upset with the Slave Leia scene, you also basically, by your own morality, have to get upset with this particular scene here. I like the Slave Leia scene. I think that fits in well with who Jabba the Hutt is, and lest we forget, it's Princess Leia who, using her costume, murders the Hutt and helps to save the day. So Princess Leia is having a really awesome, strong girl boss moment that is absolutely deserved, and she gets her revenge. Hallelujah! That totally works out just fine. And you can have this sweet smexy bit going on right here as well without ruining the philosophy of the moment as well. Or if you want to have all of that right there, then don't have Osha be like, oh my, oh, he's so sexy. Instead, show him undressing. The audience can appreciate just how sexy this actor is, and then go through the scene as you wish, rather than focusing on the, oh, it's so sexy. Again, that's just me saying this right here. If you wanted to avoid the powerful message of this moment being overshadowed by a Princess Leia in slave dress shenaniganery happening. And now that I've said that, I'm expecting a really interesting war of words and exchanges down in the comments below. But otherwise, you know what? That's really all I can say for this particular episode. It was boring in so many ways because so little of it really contributed, I think, to what the heart of this episode ought to have been. Again, so much time was wasted that could have been spent on some really great character development for Mai, Osha, and Smilo Ren. Because we didn't get any of that, this episode passed by really fast without giving me much of anything to enjoy, which again is sad because thematically, this was meant to be a very powerful episode. I could see what they were going for, but it was so poorly executed that I understand why a lot of people don't actually see or haven't been able to comment on what this episode was really attempting to do, unless all it was really there to do was just give us fan service. So with all that being said, if you're actually looking for a good space story to read, then might I suggest The Monarch Mercenaries, my space pirates book, which I guarantee if you're looking for some zany, amazing adventures with some great characters, some great character interactions, and some great character growth, you'll definitely want to pick up this book. I guarantee that it is going to entertain you. And with all that being said, if you'd like to support the work that we do here, then please like, share, comment, subscribe. It would help us out a whole lot. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing, even though sometimes it means that we have to get our hands dirty with stuff like the Acolyte. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.